Hi folks, Lou here, and I'm going to talk about what I'm going to call the principles of designing games to keep the games to 110 cards. Now, there was a period when I designed a lot of these games and they were play tested a lot and a lot of people enjoyed them, but I haven't had any of them published because the market kind of moved on while I was doing the games. It's moved on to games that are much shorter. My games could be an hour, and games that have even fewer cards. But if I suggest what my principles were for 110 cards, which was two of the old-fashioned 55 card decks, by the way, that's why that was there, but printing has changed, and now many games are not printed on the machines that do 55 card decks. Um, Principles possibly could apply to the games that are shorter and have 16 cards or 32 cards or something like that. So, first of all, if you can swing it, have the scoring only at the end. So there's no markers or a score sheet. And yet I have to say, most of those games that I designed, there were about half a dozen, had a score sheet and markers. Um, so the cards themselves become the scoring mechanism at the end of the game. What cards you have, maybe planets that you've destroyed that belong to an enemy, or something like that, or the cards you have in front of you that count for points at the end of the game. So scoring only at the end if you can swing it. Second, restrict the attacking distance. Don't let it be too easy to attack people. Otherwise, the game becomes too chaotic and too disorganized. You want fluidity, but fluidity requires maneuver, and you have no maneuver when you can choose to attack anybody you want. And as an example of a commercial game that was very successful, there's Bang. You could only attack people adjacent, and how far around the table you could attack them depended on what pistol or other weapon that you had, because it had a range. Now, I haven't said, and I probably should have, that I was aiming at games that would accommodate 5 players down to 3 and possibly 6 and maybe sometimes even 8. 2-player games are a different kettle of fish. But a 2-player card game, while they make sense in certain circumstances, is not what I'm talking about. So limit the attacking distance in effect. Another principle is give reasons for people to defend as well as to attack. I had one player in my regular playtest group at one period who just loved to attack. Any game he played, attack, 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 attack. Well, some games that can be pretty successful. Some games that's not successful at all. And I think the game is better if when a player attacks too much, they're likely to be unsuccessful. Because again, a game where everybody attacks, first of all, doesn't require much up here, and second, will get real chaotic. And I remember this gent, Mark, playing Germania, which is a game of survival of tribes after the end of the Roman Empire, not published, although it's been under contract twice. That's another story. There was a mechanism for a player to take over some of the non-player pieces if they were doing very badly. Mark didn't care whether he won. He just wanted to have a good time. And so I remember one game where he took over in succession 3 times, abandoned what was left of his forces, and adopted the non-player forces. And then those got clobbered, and he adopted the other non-player forces, which might have included some of the guys that he'd abandoned to start with. But he had a good time, but he didn't win. Anyway, so the general principle is there in any game, give some reasons to defend, but not too many, or else everybody will turtle up. Now, the last one is if enough cards are available, have cards that are some kind of avatar, like in my game, God's Will, which is about ancient gods, a little bit like Populous, the video game. There are cards for the gods, and so at the start of the game, you get dealt, I think, 2 cards, and you choose one of those to be you, to be your avatar. The avatars don't get killed, but the avatar gives you particular capabilities and provides variety in the game. If you have enough cards. If you don't have enough cards, then you won't be able to do it. Now, again, how popular are these games going to be? Well, with really good artwork, they may be, but otherwise, nowadays, there's not enough bling to attract players. Players are very visually oriented these days, and they care more sometimes about how a game looks than how it plays. And card games just aren't going to provide visual stimulus unless there's very good artwork. Now, if there is very good artwork, then it probably will succeed. I mean, exploding kittens, duh, not much of a game, but artwork by a famous artist, famous internet artist. So thanks for listening.